Hey, people. It's happy hour. It's Friday. We made it. Are we all staying together? All right, let's do this. Guess what? Right there. Three Ring Circus, the author, Jeff Pearlman, on tonight. How awesome is that? We get to do a tight 1 hour show, and then we get to watch our Lakers take things on. So we're going to get after it. How about this? Little RIP going out. Lou Johnson. You know, I think everybody that was named Lou got to be Sweet Lou, but he certainly was. Sweet Lou Johnson, outfielder for the Los Angeles Dodgers in 1965 when they beat the Minnesota Twins in 7 games. Sweet Lou had the game-winning hit. What? Look at that. A place in history of baseball. All right. Sweet Lou, baby. Gotta love it. I used to coach Sweet Lou Sandoval. He's a baller. All right. Hey, I got an idea. We got a lot to do. Let's start the show. I'm a Venice, California-born, Los Angeles-based sports fan. One that has played, coached, announced, and promoted sports my whole life. My love affair with sports started in my own backyard and has led me to this podcast. Thanks to the support of the Amateur Athletic Union in East Bay, I'm excited to bring you Sports Stories with Denny Lennon.
Sports Stories with Denny Lennon aims to bring its subscribers interesting, unique, and uplifting stories. You can find us at sportstoriespodcast.com. We drop audio and video podcasts every Thursday and go live on YouTube Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Many guests have shared their stories with host Denny Lennon, such as Super Bowl and BCS champions Brendan Ion Badejo, Peter Boulware, and Trevor Lawrence, 3-time Olympic gold medalist Karch Karai, Kentucky Derby winner Doug O'Neill, NCAA champions Toby Bailey and St. John Smith, Hall of Famers Jimmy Lennon Jr., Rudy Tomjanovich, world champions Boom Boom Mancini and Tim Leary, AAU Sullivan Award winners Catherine Plummer, Sabrina Ionescu, and Spencer Lee, not to mention the head honcho, AAU President Dr. Roger Gowdy. We've also had best-selling authors Wesley King and Wayne Coffey, and our sports stories favorite, Norm Bass, the first African-American to play 2 professional sports post-World War II. Become a friend of the show on Patreon, and you can help keep the dream alive. Go to patreon.com/Denny Lennon or go to our website to see all of our social media links. If you have an interesting, unique, or uplifting story to tell, contact us on sportsstoriespodcast.com.
Coming to you live from Los Angeles. We're in the shadow of LAX. It's a top-rated video podcast in the Centinela Adobe Corridor. It's where we share a wall with the Korean United Methodist, and you can see St. Jerome Church from our back porch. We're in the 7428 studio where Jimbo and Marley run the show, and Buck kicks back until he's got to kick it out. It's SSDL Live at 5 on YouTube. Yes, indeed. SSDL Live. Welcome in the top-rated video podcast in the Centinela Adobe Corridor. Don't forget it. How about my family? My family's here. I'm good. Ratings always grow with the family. St. Mark's, St. Bernard, VBC, AAU people. Need you all. Let's do this. We get to celebrate our Lakers tonight. All right. Top 5 states outside of California supporting the show. Coming in at 5 on that list. Pennsylvania. Interesting. Oklahoma coming strong. Got a fan base out there. I like it. The state of New York jumping on board. I like it. I think that's where our author's from. Delaware. That's where he went to college. So that makes sense. And Ohio, man, they just keep coming in support of what we're doing. Okay, again, we got Jeff Pearlman. Before that, Mike Bowley. Of course, we're going to check in with Carlos. We haven't seen him for a while. But let's cover some ground right here. How about what happened this week? Tuesday, we, as always, doing our work, getting out into the community and checking out at Never 1959. This time around, we visited his depiction of Tyler Skaggs right across the street from Santa Monica High School on the west side of Los Angeles. This Tyler Skaggs Foundation, his mother runs that foundation. She was on our show last week. So go check that one out. It's a good one. Hey, we had Eric Nussbaum on the show. He wrote that book, Stealing Home, but we broke down some of the sports stories that he covers, including those about the Harlem Globetrotters and our favorite, Norm Bass. Mike Bowley dropped on Thursday. That's our video podcast. MB, 2-time VBC champ, He'll be on the show. He could tell you. We did an interview. He's also won 6 CIF championships as a head coach at Loyola High School. Dope. That means I was on somebody else's podcast doing other podcast episodes. And that's what I did with Chris LeBron. He was a great guy, New York based. I got to talk Lakers. He got to talk Knicks when they were good 50 years ago. All right. Sam Lagann. That right there is Sam Lagann. Now, we got to shoot this inside a Casablanca restaurant in Venice. Oh, we didn't get to play that enough. Let's play it back a little bit. Yeah, thanks, Marley. Marley and Christine pulling the levers today. But see, that's Casablanca restaurant. We're the only ones that were in there, which was great. They had seating out on the outside. And anyways, we had our A crew out there. Chris Allport, bad boy Bobby McCall. All right, tonight is our happy hour. So cheers, everybody. Right? Cheers. Let's go, Lakers. Wait, check this out. On Pearlman, I hope he's in the queue watching right now. Look at that. It's an official Lakers from the 3 years he wrote about those 3 championships. That's it. Gotta like that.
Shout out Scott Rice.
Shout out to Scott Rice for that. All right. Okay, we got that. How about we hey, my Twitter account, and thanks by the way to Jeff Pearlman, it's starting to blow up. He retweeted everything today. That's a good guess. Take note, Jake Downey. All right. What do we have? Oh, I know. Karch and St. John. So those of you unfamiliar with the sport of beach volleyball, Karch Krai, St. John Smith, 2 greatest players perhaps ever to play the game on the beach side, especially. And so we compared them in a series of 6 so far disciplines that have nothing to do with beach volleyball. And at current, Karch is in the lead. He's down 3-2 in the 7-game series. He's leading in the current one, but you can go to @SportsStoriesDL and check out the different questions and vote there. Okay, let's see if we can push a game 7. I got an idea what they could do for game 7. I'll bring that up. We'll see how Karch does in game 6 first. Don't want to jinx him. Singe up 3-2. Also, we wanted to make note that producer of the show, Marley Rice, will be doing that right there. She's going on Wipeout. I think she's going on November 2nd, if I'm not mistaken. November 3rd, when we have our quote-unquote election. It might be too late to go on the show, you know. So she's going on November 2nd. That could be some fun. She's going to rep Sports Stories on Wipeout. All right? So Marley getting in shape. Hey, you know what? She won an Athlete of the Year when she was in Catholic grade school. She could do this. Okay, what's next?
MB.
Oh, MB is next. Okay, we dropped our video podcast. It was an interesting video podcast because we kind of forgot we had it. It was one of our, in effect, preseason podcast. And Mike Bowley and I sat down and did this interview. And then we tried to, build it out. But you know what? We looked back at it and we said, hey, wasn't bad. Not bad at all. Let's bring in Mike Bowley. First, we should probably show his pre-shot. He's the first one ever to take the 74-28 shot in the backyard. And it rode him into the semifinals of our competition eventually. There he is. 2-time BBC champ.
Ain't it now?
Oh, tough. With a clean left hand follow up. Mike probably had no idea that shot would follow him like it does. What's up, MB?
He is not muted.
Hi, Denny.
Hi, Mike. I mean, it's history. I mean, it's in there. It did happen.
It hurts. That's all.
Okay. But you wrote it to the semifinals of the East Bay. That wasn't bad. That was a good run.
Yeah, it did. You're right, but still, I'm just sick to my stomach. Sorry.
We can redo it.
Okay.
I like that you brought the Lakers gear. Looking good. Mike, talk a little bit about our
Kurt Rambis, Showtime.
Oh, I didn't reference that. Solid. That's good. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't keep up with all of your conditions. I don't know.
That's right.
Yep.
Yes.
So Mike, video podcast dropped. We talked about you as an athlete and then you as a high school coach. And it came out pretty good. What'd you think?
I loved it. The best part for me is that we're family, and you and I have been friends for a very long time. And just to be able to sit in your office and studio and talk, and I thought it was really cool. And I was honored that I was one of the first ones to do this with you. So I thought it was very cool, and just proud of you, man. I'm proud of everything that you're doing. It's such a cool thing. You've always had this knack for these types of things, Denny. And you and I both love sports so much that I think this is perfect for you, and it's right up your alley. And you know, I'm a big fan.
Thanks. And I don't mean to rush you, but my friend Jeff Pearlman's on the show, and he's written 9 bestsellers on New York Times. So he's kind of important. So you know, let's keep moving along here.
Okay, sorry.
If you had a question, first, which of your 6 section titles, 4 state titles, or your national title do you like the best from Loyola High School? Which one?
2010.
Why did you do that? That was so mean.
Sorry. Did you still want to talk to him?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, sorry. Here you go.
That was so mean. No, 2010 was a good Miracosta finals. Yep.
Dude, we're down. I'm talking. Oh, sorry. No, 2010.
Yeah. Well, 2009 was your national title. 2010, I think you were down like 14-10 in the semifinals in Newport Harbor's gym.
Quarterfinals, by the way.
Quarterfinals.
Yes.
Okay. And then you rallied to win that one.
Yeah, that was huge. Yeah, that was huge. So I think your son was on that team.
Yeah.
Darn.
He was all right. He was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
the highlight. That was really cool. Yeah, it was one of my favorites.
That was a good run, MB. Well, we get to cover a lot of that, including the Venice Backyard Championships. I find it interesting that, you know, really the founders are considered you, Ray, and me that found this. And Ray's also known as a box cobbler and stuff. But we also did one of those kind of interviews with him, but we lost it. So does that diminish his spot in history of founding the VBC?
100%.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah, please let me know that there's no vote either on that. We anticipated. Well, we'll look for it. So if considering, you know, I got New York Times bestselling author waiting, if you had a question to ask him about the Lakers, it would be okay.
All right. See, that's a good swipe because you got to get him like where he's like, oh, I can answer this. Oh man. It's good times. I won't be swiping Jeff Pearlman, our lead guest, because he's our lead guest, but everybody else, they get swiped. Okay. Hey, you know, we're here near LAX, but last night we were in Venice at Casablanca restaurant, that also on the west side of Los Angeles, but a little north of LAX. And we were there because we got to take over the inside and shoot a video podcast, which will be coming out with Sam Lagann, right? So Sam Lagann is the voice of the Rams at SoFi Stadium. He did the same thing at the LA Coliseum. Oh, I like to call it SoFi Stadium. I keep thinking it was named after Sophia Loren, but I guess it's SoFi Stadium. That said, we were there in Casablanca, and we did this great shoot. That's Chris Allport right there. He's a producer, director, and he brought in the heavy equipment. That's bad boy Bobby McCall that was handling some of the equipment. And we actually got this opportunity to really shoot it on a high level and do our thing in there. Sam, not only the voice of the Rams in stadium, he's the head of the Wooden Award, which hands out the top collegiate basketball player award. And he was former AVP, voice of AVP, cut his teeth there. And he's also a vice chancellor now at Pepperdine University in charge of fundraising. So the guy's a heavy hitter, and he's got a heavy booming voice, which you'll get a chance to hear in a little bit. But first, we're going to talk to Carlos, right? Yep. Let's go to Casablanca Restaurant. Hi there, Carlos.
Hey, how you doing, Denny?
Doing good. I'd like that you're repping the Pepperdine hat that Sam gave you last night.
I know. Sam gave me this hat, so I'm repping it today. All about the dine. So fine in the dine.
I noticed that there was a long wait for the outdoor tables last night, so they must have all been there, overflow, knowing that we were shooting the podcast.
That did. I actually did think I got a couple of Rams fans there, so good. They were all coming in. So thank you, Denny, for that. It was great.
To be clear, Rams fans, not necessarily Sports Stories fans.
No, to be honest with you. No.
That's fair. That's fair. So you got, 2 documentaries that's been shot inside of your restaurant lately. We did a short film / commercial about the box cobbler, and then that last night. So you're making best use of your space during the COVID period.
I told my wife we're really well. Our production company is really well. The restaurant Tortilla, we're still trying to work on that. But the production company that we decided to build is working well. So we got a lot of things going on.
It's killing it. So I know you read the book that we're discussing tonight, 3 Ring Circus, Jeff Pearlman, and you have insight from here to there. Look, I don't want to spend a lot of time with you. I'll be clear. Jeff's waiting. But if you had any thoughts on the book, any questions,
you made me read the book, so let me ask you the.
That's how it's done. That's how it's done, people. We're not going to keep a New York Times bestseller waiting while we talk to Carlos. Come on. All right, Marley. You're moving at a crisp pace, and I appreciate it because the Lakers tip off at 6, and we want to make sure we get enough time. All right, so we covered all of that, and now we get to is this where we get to show off our montage?
Your montage of your life.
Oh, this is my life montage. Hold on, let me find my notes. Hey, let's just say this, everybody. I've been a Laker fan my whole life, and I can do this without my notes. Let's go.
You need them?
No, because I remember my life, I hope. All right, look, in 1972, this is me. This is my first Holy Communion. And my mom was like, you got to get dressed. And I said, Mom, I got to knock down 10 Kareem Abdul-Jabbar hook shots. That's just the way I roll, Ma. You'll notice I do have my black socks on ready for Holy Communion. And I do have my wristband on because I like Wilt Chamberlain. That is this 1972 Lakers. That's right. They won 33 games in a row that year, set the regular season record for wins, and they won the championship. I got to watch them practice when I was a kid because my godfather was Dick Gasson. He was really good friends with Bill Sharman, the head coach. They practiced near my house at Loyola Marymount. That's the 1980 Lakers. All right, here's a story about the 80 Lakers. I had to work there that night. I was probably like 15 years old, really pissed that I had to work, but we did find the way to get one of those early television, one of those early TVs in, and we put it in the back. So we watched that and ignored the customers while we watched in the back, and Magic went off against the 76ers. That said, we rewarded the customers with free ice cream for an hour after the game. I don't think my boss knew about that. All right, 1982, Barney Barnes gets a phone call at my Uncle Ted's house. Barney Barnes, RIP. He was a cousin. He married my cousin Barbara. We get a phone call at my Uncle Ted's house. What? We can go to the game? You know, we're going to go, and we're going to go see the Lakers win. We parked at Hollywood Park. Bob McAdoo went off. I saw the 82 Lakers win that championship. I'm out on the road announcing women's pro beach volleyball in the 80s, and I'm in Quincy Harbor, and I talked to this guy who's the security guard at the Garden. He let me tour the Garden. I got him in the VIP. Yep, that was a good change. I was coaching baseball at St. Bernard High School. This is in the 80s. That guy right there, that's Carlos Maples. He happened to get a job with the Lakers being their equipment manager. He got me tickets for the rest of that Showtime era. I was a coach, so much so that we pushed the product. Hold on a second on those kids. So we used to push. I used to push with all of my teams. What was? We're going to just hold on me in there. Yeah, there they are. That's Vaughn and Sienna. That's the kids, right? Look at wearing the Laker gear. Look at that, Sienna's work of art right there. That still lives. That still lives. And we always seem to have Lakers gear on in all our family photos, of course. And hold on this one. I know we got a few pictures, but here's the ultimate tribute to the Lakers. That right there is Buck Magic Lennon. Why? Well, Coach Pat Riley called Magic Johnson Buck, right? And we loved us some. Me and my wife, Christine, we loved us some Magic Johnson. That's a Buckster right there. So when you see Kick It Out Buck at the end of all of it, that's him. Hey, I got to interview my boyhood idol, Jerry West, when I was an athletic director. And we come full circle where my boy takes me to a game at the beginning of this year. And we watch LeBron James destroy the Kings. Sadly, Kobe Bryant dies. We visit the very stirring memorial. I write, "Save us, Kobe," up on his memorial. You know why? Because that's what me and my wife would yell in the living room, and Kobe would always save us. That was a stirring night, but hey, this time around, we got to win for Kobe, I guess. But wait, I was on that last one. Hold it right there. See, this is brilliant. This is just good tweeting by me. I put myself into that mural, right? And I said the four of us, including myself, that would be Kuzma, Anthony, LeBron, and I, we all combined for 65-20, right? And James Worthy liked it. I don't know. I got an NBA Hall of Famer liking my tweet. That's what it's like when you're a lifetime Laker fan. Hey, that's the team that's going to take to game 2. Okay, thanks for indulging me in that trip. But the Lakers have been there through my whole life. How fortunate am I to be a Lakers fan and to grow up a Lakers fan? All of us are fortunate, right? We have a franchise, I argue, the greatest franchise in the history of all sports that is relevant almost every year. And if they're not relevant, the story's relevant that they're not relevant. Okay. Woo, did all right on that one. What's up next? We get to show Jeff's? Yeah. Okay. So as I told you, I was hanging out with Sam Lagann, the stadium voice of the LA Rams at the Coliseum and now at SoFi Stadium. And he is got this booming voice. And I'm sitting there last night. I go, I got Jeff Pearlman on the show tomorrow. He's like, well, you mean the writer? Yeah, absolutely. He goes, I said, dude, can you do something on your iPhone? Send it to you tomorrow. We'll try to put something together. So we did. So this is Sam. Let's go, Sam.
Coming to you live from the world-famous 7428 studio. It's the top-rated video podcast in the Centinela Adobe Corridor. It's Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. Tonight's guest is the New York Times best-selling author of 9 books. He's the man behind the 3-Ring Circus. Please welcome Jeff Pearlman. Woman and child, it's time to tune in to YouTube for Sports Stories with Denny Lennon.
I love you, Sam. Not only does he call out the Rams, he says, every man, woman, and child, rise to your feet for the Rams. He does it for Jeff Pearlman. Hey, Jeff Pearlman not only wrote all them their books, but he is a he's a Sports Illustrated senior writer, ESPN.com columnist. He wrote for Newsday, Bleacher Report, Wall Street Journal, CNN.com, and the Nashville Tennessean. Why did the Nashville Tennessean get into his bio with all those other heavy hitters? I'm going to ask him just that. Let's bring him on the show. One and only Jeff Pearlman. Hiya, Jeff.
That was the scariest intro ever because I didn't know what picture was coming next. I was half expecting some nude that was taken on a photo shoot in 1992. I just didn't know. And then the dinosaur suit comes up, which was a Halloween costume. And then the picture of me running, my 1 year of running at the University of Delaware.
That was a good year.
I was like, oh my God, what's next? That was awesome. That was so good.
There it is. That's good. Have you ever been brought on a show by the stadium voice of a NFL franchise?
That was amazing.
Okay. And why did the Nashville Tennessean make it into your bio and no other regular newspaper?
Well, that's where I started. I started my career. My first job was Nashville Tennessean.
Okay. Shout out.
As a food and fashion writer. So.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, first of all, understand that you got yourself some of our sponsors' food and drink. So let's cheers to Carlos.
Ate it all.
Oh, yes. Right on.
Awesome.
As you can see from, I don't know if you watched my interview with him. I'm a big Carlos fan. Yep, big fan.
Well, food is awesome.
Yep. Yes, food is awesome. Great. And I'll give him a shout out because you write books about Kobe and the like. He was a very good basketball player in Catholic grade school.
I was not.
Okay.
He was a good runner.
And you were the runner though. That's what we found out. We did some deep dive on that.
I can tell.
I wanted to certainly going to break down and get involved in your in the most current book, but if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a couple questions about some of the other subjects you wrote about. And I just find, they're interesting and, just a couple words. First one would be Brett Favre. Was he like, to all of us that are sitting back, we see him as this gunslinger, like you noted him, that's just shooting the ball here and there, devil may care. Let's see if we can get a touchdown. Did you find him to be that kind of guy?
I think I did, actually. I would say so. I mean, to me, if you really want to know about Brett Favre and who he was, when he was drafted out of Southern Miss, he was drafted actually by the Atlanta Falcons. He spent 1 year in Atlanta, and he thought he was going to be the backup, and he ended up the third-string quarterback. And when he got demoted to third string, he basically spent the year drinking, getting fat. Like that was his year. His pastime for his rookie year was drinking and getting fat, and had the best time ever. Had the best rookie year considering he wasn't playing. And his whole career was just a big party. And he had a lot of issues, obviously addiction issues, but he really was a very unique, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to make a play in the dirt. I'm going to run left and run right. And I'm going to throw and I might screw up. This is what I always say, probably not one of the 10 best quarterbacks in NFL history, but for my money, the most entertaining.
I found that as much. Also, I think I heard you on another podcast or something, but you said something interesting about your technique or, what you do to build out your stories, which is you find the people that were on, in effect, the periphery, like maybe people that are only up for a little bit in a training camp or an equipment manager and those kind of people. And when you build all of that out, you get a better picture of whoever your biography is on.
Yeah. I mean, the general take is, I use Favre as an example, but you can use anyone as an example. When I write Favre is, let's say Favre's in camp with the Packers in 1999. It's just another training camp to Brett Favre. But somewhere there's a free agent rookie running back out of Bucknell, and he's only in camp for 3 weeks. Brett Favre is never going to remember him. As soon as that guy's gone, Brett Favre pretty much forgets his existence. But that guy is going to remember his 3 weeks in camp with the Packers. He's going to remember the one time Brett Favre ran past him and untied his shoes, the one time Brett Favre bought him a cheeseburger or gave him a ride. So that's why you always call those people, because they always have very profound memories of their one or two experiences with a guy like Favre.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I've read not all of them, but like certainly Showtime and the Three Ring Circus, and you feel that. You feel like you get all of that. Let's talk a little bit about sweetness. Walter Payton, with the recent passing of Gale Sayers, he seemed to inherit that mantle. Is that right? Was he like the next big Chicago Bears offensive threat that everybody Bears fans remembered, or am I missing somebody in between?
No, I mean, so especially back then, the Bears are always afraid of drafting quarterbacks high because they thought the weather and the wind in Soldier Field, it didn't make any sense to really spend a lot of money on a quarterback. So they always had these very mediocre quarterbacks, Bobby Douglas type and Bob Avellini. So they went from Sayers to nothing, and then Payton comes along. And his first game as a rookie, heavily hyped, I think number 4 pick in the draft out of Jackson State, 0 yards. He was held to 0 yards by the Colts. And there was immediate, this guy stinks. Why did we draft this guy? And, before long, he's a nuclear weapon. So he was the next in line to Gale Sayers. And I would argue they haven't had anyone like those two since.
No doubt. Yeah, Gale Sayers, and I was recently reliving Brian's song on a series of clips on Twitter, and it still makes me cry. I love it.
Come on. And the music.
I know.
My wife plays it on the piano. It's the best, yeah.
So I was coaching at a private school, kind of high-end private school or whatever, and we're playing against another high-end private school out here on the west side of Los Angeles, and Barry Bonds is sitting in the stands watching I think it's his daughter play. Mm-hmm. And you could see a dad coaxing his kid, little girl, go over there, get his autograph. She only got within about 5 feet and gave her a death stare that just like scared the girl forever. And I thought, man, I got a feeling this reputation is right. Like, is this the biggest jerk in the history of sports? And after reading Three Ring Circus, I was reminded of what Kobe used to be like before that team broke up.
Yeah, but Kobe was never Bonds. Like Bonds, I always thought Bonds was mean for sport. I really do. I'll give you a quick story. I called the team photographer for the Pittsburgh Pirates because Bonds used to play in Pittsburgh. And he said to me, after Bonds was with the Giants, he came back to Pittsburgh. 2 construction workers on the Pirates stadium died in an accident. So the Pirates were trying to raise money for the families of those 2 people. And every time a team would come in, they would get the stars to sign an autograph, a bat or a ball or something that they could auction off to the families. So Craig Biggio comes in and signs. Randy Johnson comes in and signs. Bonds comes in, and this guy, Pete Diana, team photographer of the Pittsburgh Pirates, goes up to Barry. And he says, "Hey, Barry, how's it going? I don't know if you heard, but, this accident, would you be willing to sign a few things that we could auction off?" Bonds goes, "F you, F the Pirates," and walked away.
Jesus.
And Pete Diana gave me the quote of quotes. He said, his quote about Barry Bonds was, "I hope Barry Bonds dies."
Jeez. I think a lot of people have that sentiment in different ways today.
But what's interesting, I will say? He can't get a job in sports now, Barry Bonds. He can't get a job in sports. And I do always say, and I think about it all the time, how you treat people when you're up here is remembered when you're down here.
And some people put that tag on even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which I mean, I think it kind of came off as he was just
Awkward.
He was up here. He was kind of like aloof and awkward, and I don't think he was evil, you know, and mean like Barry Bonds was. But I don't think he ever got a fair shake at a shot at coaching as time played out.
I mean, I think it's a few things. You know, he was a guy who was a museum piece from the time he was probably 7, and he was insanely tall, and everyone was pointing at him. And the number of times you hear, "What's the weather like up there?" You know, or "How's the air up there?" It'll drive you crazy. And when he was with the Lakers and they used to travel, and they would actually be in an airport hangar waiting for a flight back in the prehistoric days, he would sit in the airport bathroom in a stall with a book and just sit on a toilet with a book to hide from people. It was just insanely awkward. And I do think there's a difference between what Bonds was, which again was kind of mean for sport, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who wasn't nice and wasn't very friendly, and that definitely cost him. But I think mainly it was because of awkwardness and his social anxiety, probably.
You know, I spend time arguing Kareem's status in the game. I always feel he's slighted by not getting in the argument for greatest player ever. I mean, certainly we got it, Jordan, right there. And you have to put LeBron in the argument. I mean, LeBron should be 4 titles, 10 appearances coming up here. And MJ, everybody knows 6 for 6, but Kareem won his 6. Kareem's got the most points ever. He was crazy in college, and I just don't think he gets the benefit of the doubt in the longevity because his position's been diminished.
1,000,000,000% agree. I actually, when people ask me who I think the greatest player of all time is, I say Kareem. He's the best high school player anyone's ever seen, the most dominant high school player ever seen. He was the best college player, definitely the most dominant college player you've ever seen. And then he goes in the NBA, and he's a dominant force in the NBA for all those years. I kind of think Shaq suffers from the same thing a little bit. Like people talk about the years of the Shaq Kobe years, and they really remember Kobe much more than they do Shaq. And Shaq was truly, this isn't a slight at Kobe, I think he would agree where he here. Shaq was the most dominant player in the NBA for a solid decade.
Yes.
And people don't remember
it. I'll tell you some people who do remember it, those that guarded him.
Yes.
He was so strong. He would really seriously bruise people.
Yeah. And I always think like people, one thing I learned from this book is people would say, "Oh, Shaq, he's lazy. Look at him in the offseason. He's in Kobe shooting 5,000 jumpers a day and Shaq is in his pool." And I interviewed the guys who beat the crap out of him every day. The Malik Roses of the San Antonio Spurs, Evan Eschmeyer from the Nets, Corliss Williamson when he was with the Kings. Like those guys, just their job was to basically chop him down. Yeah. And when the season was over, he needed a rest. He could not be in the gym running wind sprints every day. He needed to be in a pool. I just think people do not remember how bad of a beating that guy took.
Yeah, I know. He didn't. I got to apologize one thing. We couldn't get the rights to I can't go for that to play behind your montage.
Okay.
And I made a call. Couldn't get it done. But I understand you're big Hall & Oates fans before we get into your book.
I am a huge Hall & Oates fan.
Right
You're a fan?
Oh, big time.
Right? Let me see if you can see this real quick. Hanging on my wall right there, autographed Hall & Oates record.
Oh, man. That is legit.
Yep.
Legit. One of the great times is my wife and I, we coached my daughter in a varsity basketball game. Make her change real quick. And we drive across town to the Hollywood Bowl, just play Hall & Oates all the way there, and sat in the beautiful Hollywood Bowl, the sun setting, and watch Hall & Oates play. And it was just brilliant. And she goes, "Wow, they are really good." And I was like,
I have a theory about Hall & Oates, and it is this. A nice visual. Every human being on the planet over age 10 knows at least one Hall & Oates song.
That's a good theory. They do. They do.
They don't know they do always, but they do.
But they do. They recognize it.
For knowing one Hall & Oates song.
Yes. As a matter of fact, after my wife reminded me she was coaching her team, and after if they at least could sing a couple of lines of a Hall & Oates song, then they would get out of running sprints at the end of practice. And one of the girls ran and got her phone and had her dad sing it to the group. And my wife let him out early. That was pretty solid. That's Hall & Oates commitment.
Yeah.
So, okay, as we move on to this book, and by the way, I listened a little bit. I want everybody to know just what an important book this is because it's just great. Dude, you're such a good writer. I really enjoy your sense of humor. It's really fun because you're into it, and then you lay one out there, and I'm like, that's hilarious. And then you keep going. It's fun stuff. But I listened, I think, one of your podcasts, and one of your podcasts, and you were just talking about, you're like, when it comes out, you're worried about how it's going to be perceived. And you're like, there's this, there's that, and the other. But man, it's just so good. And I just love going through your books because they have so many of those corroborating agreements that go through that. And you find out stuff. You think you're the biggest fan ever, and you find out this stuff. It makes all the difference. One of the things I want to talk to you about a little bit was when Kobe goes to that ABC decamp for Sonny Vaccaro, and he really shouldn't have gone because he wasn't he was at a private school in Philly, and he wasn't one of the top 120 considered players or whatever, but because his dad, Jelly Bean, had played pro and knew Sonny Vaccaro, he was able to get him into that camp. I mean, to me, that kind of changed the whole arc of Kobe because he very well could have ended up at LaSalle or something like that.
Also, there are just a lot of kids out there whose parents will say, my kid's really good. Can you get him in? My kid's really good. Can you get him in? He averaged 22 in his blah, blah, blah team. And they stink. It's like, oh, there's this kid. His dad is blank, some NBA journeyman. Danny Shays' son is a really good player. Get him, and you're like, wait, he's not really that good. So it was, first of all, the Sonny Vaccaro, for all he knew, this guy was going to be terrible. The only thing he knew is Jelly Bean Bryant was a really good player as a young guy. He played in the NBA. And Sonny Vaccaro decided to do him a favor, but he didn't know. I mean, Kobe Bryant was stashed away in Italy for all those years. And he shows up in America wearing volleyball knee pads for basketball. That's all he knew. So it was a big leap of – I mean, it wasn't a huge leap of faith. If he sucked, and he just moved on with life. But there was no reason to think this kid was going to be any better than any other kid whose dad is excessively bragging about it.
And for those who don't know about those camps, I mean, those were almost more important for potential college scholarships than any of your club or high school seasons because you were collecting all the talent in one place where all the college coaches would come. And I think, was that an Adidas one at that time? Sonny Vaccaro had left Nike and that became an Adidas one. Is that what was going on there?
Yeah. And that was really the genesis of Kobe Bryant's first shoe deal, which he got before he went to the NBA. He came with the shoe deal. And it's funny because everyone was like, is he going to Duke? Is he going to the NBA? He was going to the NBA because he had the shoe deal already.
He did.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah, but he probably learned an important lesson about discretion and doing things, in your own best interest by keeping that to himself. The fact that he was going to sign that deal, the fact that he was going to go pro, he still took all his college trips.
Yeah, it's very interesting. He knew the whole time. He visits Duke. He knows he's not going to Duke. He just knew. And it's interesting. Talk about discretion. Sonny Vaccaro from Adidas would always send a rep to Kobe's high school games, but he would not go to the high school games.
Right.
Because he didn't want anyone else to know that he was this interested. And one thing I found really interesting, I talked to Sonny about it, is the name Kobe Bryant added something to this mix. Like I said to him, if his name was, Joe Smith, Joe Stevens, would the sneaker deal have the same appeal? And he's like, I never thought about that, but probably not. There's something about the name, the mystique of the name Kobe Bryant that added something to it all,
Did it seems to me that after his first year or his first contract ran through with Adidas, you never heard about Sonny Vaccaro being connected to Kobe Bryant again. You always kind of heard something about maybe what happened?
Basically, Sonny Vaccaro was basically the guy who hooked you up with the deal and then kind of moved on. In a way, he was like the closer. It's like John Lovitz's character in A League of Their Own. He finds you, he brings you, and then, he moves it. By the way, the most underrated sports movie of all time.
I love it, yes.
By far, the most underrated sports movie of all time.
Look who just caught up. Yes, it was a great movie. Oh, that one was so good.
John Lovitz owned it. John Lovitz owned that movie. He was so good.
That was good.
Yeah, no, but he was kind of the deal maker, and he was the one who hooked up Kobe Bryant. And he really, to his credit, he viewed Kobe Bryant as the Michael Jordan for Adidas. This is going to be our guy.
Yeah, he did.
And the problem was the sneakers were terrible.
Okay.
They were ugly. His first sneakers looked like toasters. If you look at Kobe Bryant, it looks like he's wearing toasters.
Yeah, that's funny. And nobody, we have this one show we do on Wednesdays where I kind of put the spotlight on top prep athletes. Yeah. And one of the I always ask them, what's your shoe, your go-to if you're going out? And all of them, Air Jordans, all Air Jordan. So that's their throwback. Not one of them has ever said, I got a vintage Kobe Adidas.
I actually think we're coming to the point now, in the same way kids play Madden and don't know that John Madden is a thing. They don't know there was this coach named John Madden.
Right.
I think we're getting closer and closer to the point where people don't necessarily know Michael Jordan was this amazing basketball player. They know first before they learn that, there's these shoes called Jordans, you know?
Yeah, it's true. Like, I don't know if you know this, but George Foreman boxed. Did you know George Foreman was a boxer?
Hey, like in the ring?
Yeah. Wasn't just for cooking bacon. So with Jordan, I had to tell you, like, my son was young when Jordan went to the Wizards, and all he knew him from was Space Jam.
Oh my God.
And then he watched him at the Wizards, and he was super getting into basketball, and he turned around to me and he goes, he's not that good, Dad. And I went, oh, it's like I'm a Laker diehard, and I was like, it killed me. And so when The Last Dance come out, I was like, what did I tell you?
Did you love The Last Dance?
Oh yeah.
You know what my favorite moment was of all of them was when he sees Larry Bird. Larry Bird's coaching the Pacers, and they have this moment behind the out at the rear of the arena. There's just this really cool single moment of like mutual appreciation.
Yeah,
a little bit of trash talk. I just love that. I felt that.
I know those moments are the ones, and those are the ones you play up so well in the book too. Something else that was interesting, post-death Kobe, you didn't. Suddenly, it seemed like a lot of people owned up to the fact that they actually liked him or had a long-term relationship with him. Never heard really from Sonny again. Like, I went to the memorial, Phil didn't speak. I found that really interesting. Do you think, because to me, there was that Kobe that won the 09 and the 010 championship and then was #girl dad and won an Academy Award. And then there was the guy that's in this book. And it seems like there was so much maturity that happened in between that send-off was very emotional, but most of it had to do with the end of his life and not this part. And I don't know, did you see the same maturation in him going from where this book ended to where his life ended?
Oh yeah, I think it was a huge leap forward. It's really interesting. Maybe you can answer this because you're a diehard Laker fan, clearly. I thought I was going to catch a ton of crap over this book. Like, I thought the book's going to come out because I write a lot about Eagle, Colorado. I write a lot about I kind of pin the blame on the Shaq-Kobe relationship on Kobe. I really do.
You do?
And I've gotten 2 negative tweets, I think. 2 or 3. That's it. Why do you think that is? Because I'm shocked.
Well, and I think I remember you saying something about, like, you got killed for the Walter Payton book on parts of his life, which weren't, I don't think, as much transgressions as Kobe's. Now, that said, here's why I think. Because I think most of us knew that.
Right.
Most of us knew he was that guy. Now, what happens is your book explains why he's that guy. Your book explains his social awkwardness, why he grew up there and tried to be this and tried to be that. And that's why, like, I would encourage people, like, it really does shine a light on, okay. And I almost feel better about I felt mixed feelings when he died because he was getting such adulation. And I said, let's not forget the other stuff. Like, I get it, but let's not forget that. And now when I read your book, I was like, okay, that's a lot for a young person to deal with. Yeah. Like, to not have grown up in here, then to come back, and the way his dad kind of manipulated those teams and what he was given right away and what he tried to be. Like, I think your book's really clear on that. And, it's not a total, like, okay, it's okay, Kobe, but I feel better about it. And I think people probably go, yeah, okay.
I'll tell you one thing. The only thing that drives me crazy lately, a little bit, it's a societal thing, but it relates to Kobe. You see the hashtag girl dad. God, it's girl dad. Like, I've been a girl dad for 17 years, right?
Right.
I am tired of men. This is not just about Kobe at all. Getting this credit for loving their daughters as much as they do their sons, or investing as much time. Like, my daughter is everything to me, and my son is everything to me. I'm not like, nobody should be like, wow, look at this guy. He's changing his daughter's diaper. That's amazing. Like, the bar is so ridiculously low for dads and daughters. Like, am I supposed to love her less or less about her? It's
that's right.
I don't get that. It's the most unspoken weirdness thing about, like, I love my daughter. What the hell is that?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yep. I got you. Hey, hashtag beer drinker.
Hashtag green cup.
Yeah, right. It is. It is. I found that too. So Dill Harris is another one subject that comes in here that's really interesting for those who don't remember, Del Harris was the coach before Phil Jackson, or there's a couple in between. But Del Harris had Shaq and Kobe back then. But it's so funny the way you explained how he just talked infinitum forever during team meetings and stuff, and that was like the running joke amongst the Lakers and stuff.
Have you found in your career actually that have you come across coaches who just talk too much and lose players because they talk too much?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I was an athletic director, and I tried to have a rule with all the coaches I hired. I said, always beat the other team out of the huddle post game. And I said, especially if you lose, nobody's listening.
Yeah.
Now, and even if you win, let them go do their homework. I said, beat the other team out of the. Now, it didn't always play out, but that was always my theory.
It's there's sometimes when you write a book and it hurts you a little bit because you have to write truthfully about someone who's a really nice and decent person. And Del Harris, we have very little in common, politically, socially, anything, blah, blah. I spent 6 hours with him in Texas. He could not have been nicer. I think he was a very, very smart basketball coach. I think his intentions were great. He did so many wonderful things. The way he handled a young Kobe Bryant was perfect. He didn't rush him along. He wouldn't push him, patient with him. But especially toward the end of his run there, players just didn't want to listen to him anymore. And especially, Nick Van Exel was sort of a cornerstone there. And Nick Van Exel, who I really like actually, and was a really good freaking basketball player, didn't want to deal with Del Harris anymore. He couldn't stand there sitting in a huddle in what should have taken 5 seconds to explain, all right, this is what you're going to do on defense, and making it last the entire huddle. And that stuff just drove them crazy. So by the end of his time there, he was I believe, all of the equal of Phil Jackson as far as basketball smarts, wherewithal. But you have to stop talking.
You have to, at some point. At some point, I kind of compared him to Jimmy Carter a little bit. Like Jimmy Carter probably was he had some really good ideas, but damn, was he boring.
Right.
I used to have up in the Staples Center 300 section seats, and we bring binoculars, but we could look directly down into the Laker huddle when Phil was coaching. And when he would call a timeout, which he rarely did, or the other team called a timeout, he would just sit in this very tall chair and huddle with his coaches. And he barely talked to his players, and he would draw something on his dry erase board, and he would just go in and show it to them, say one thing to one person, and go sit down.
Yeah.
That was Phil. And you could see other coaches that are going absolutely crazy in a huddle, trying to give them too much information. And it was something we learned that was just like, it's probably a really good idea. How about just do this one thing instead of 7 things that you won't do?
It's funny because I wrote about John Calipari comes up in this book because he blew drafting Kobe when he was coach of the Nets. Yeah. He drafted Kerry Kittles. Not a good move. And guys like Calipari, Rick Pitino, young hotshot college coaches coming to the NBA, they talk themselves out of success in the NBA. They really did. Like Calipari is obviously a very smart basketball coach. He knows what he's doing, but he wouldn't shut up. And when you're on the Nets, you're just like, you're Jason Williams or you're whoever. You just want the guy to be quiet. You don't need a motivational pep talk. You're 30 years old. You got a wife and a kid at home. You're driving a car. You got to get gas. Blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't need this guy to tell you how this game against Charlotte, game number 53 of the season, is the most important game of the year. Like, after a while, you just don't need it. And Del Harris, after a while, these guys are adults. They get it. And Phil Jackson, you're totally right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to run this. You guys did the same play against so-and-so. Kobe over here, Shaq over here. Go get him.
Yeah, he didn't want to spend much time. He was ready for go get dinner and play it all right. Yeah, I remember I used to see Phil go out after the games. And it was like he was just that guy. All right, question. Del Harris had a website, and this was the early days of the website. And look, I still haven't got my membership card, nor have I got in my Del Harris barbecue mitts. What's going on? That was a long time ago.
Did you get your 8x10 glossy?
I did not. Did you? I need a journalist to dig into this.
I'm really sorry.
That is so funny that one, not a very attractive coach to sign up for. 2, it was at the infancy of signing up for things online. And what did he expect to make off of this?
I know. I think his wife actually was like, "You know, be a good idea and make you a little more warm and engaging." Hey, he's a really nice guy. He's such a nice guy. It was a misfire. You
have you got to spend 6 hours with him, and then you got this other thing where you spent like Phil Jackson really wasn't going to receive you well.
No.
and then it turned into a whole day. Like, did you like go fishing or something with them?
No, I went. I got lucky. So Jeannie Buss was really nice, the owner of the Lakers, and I'd done Showtime, and she knew me, and she kind of connected me with Phil Jackson. And I emailed him, and he said, "When do you want to do it?" And he meant over email. And I said, "Can I fly out? Would you let me fly out to Montana?" He's like, "Okay." I flew out. I meet him in a coffee shop, and he goes, first thing I said to him is, "Hey, really, I appreciate you doing this." He goes, "I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for Jeannie." And I was like, "Oh, well, it's okay." And I thought I was going to get an hour at a coffee shop. And he's like, "I was thinking we'll take a drive around Flathead Lake." All right. It's a 3-hour drive. Stop for lunch. It's like, I don't know. You want to come back to my house, hang out? Okay. We're sitting on a porch, just sitting back there talking. Then he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to take a nap, and I got some things to do." It's like, "You want to get dinner later?" I was like, "Great." And it was awesome. It was, it was like 20% basketball talk and 80% everything else. It was really enjoyable for me. So he just emailed me. It's funny. His name was in the news the other day. Clippers opening, right? They're like, maybe Phil Jackson.
Right.
He emailed me that day, right? And he wrote, "Hey, Jeff, what's the name of that book you sent me? I can't find it, and I want to give it to someone as a gift." And I thought, this guy's not taking the Clippers job. Like, there's no way he's emailing me about a book. He's really
right.
Yeah. And he's just I kind of really like the guy. He's really smart, really enjoyable, nice guy. So.
Yeah, I mean, they always came off to me as that. I must say this: when I was always a big LA Times sports reader, like I would before I had to get to work, I'd always go get breakfast and bring that, and that was big. When Shaq was in town, and then Phil, it was the best newspaper ever because sometimes you had to like decipher what they were saying. Other times they come straight out and say it, but it must have been a glory time to be a reporter. I mean, Shaq say with things like, if you don't give the dog his biscuits, he's not going to guard the front porch.
Right.
You would be like, okay, Kobe's got to pass him the ball. And then Phil would say these things that were just, wow, that had no subtlety whatsoever. Like it was.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Just like, it was a great time.
Well, what I love is I interviewed a ton of the writers from back then, Howard Beck and J.A. Adonde and Tim Brown. And it was like they all kind of agreed in a weird way. You had to be a Kobe guy or a Shaq guy. Like you had to pick who your guy was going to be for your source. And it's a funny picture. You would think that these two guys, these two superstars, would be very like in the face of each other, and either you're very direct, but they weren't. It was super passive aggressive. So you go to Shaq after a game, and Shaq would be like in his deep voice, he'd be like, "Yeah, we played well, but it'd be better if someone didn't shoot 26 times." Well, then it'd be like scurry, and they'd all go over to Kobe. He'd be like, "Kobe, Shaq said it'd be better if someone didn't," and he'd be like, "Yeah, well, it'd also be better if someone's fat ass didn't hog the paint the whole time." Scurry. It was like back and forth. The two biggest wimpy, passive-aggressive basketball players. Like, they're right. They're 15 feet apart from each other, not saying this to each other. But it was really fun. It was really fun and exhilarating.
It was a fun time just to be on the other side of it and see all that. I think the craziest part in the book really comes. It's that year where they lose and they bring in Gary Payton and they bring in Karl Malone. I don't know if you because I might have missed this, but did you know Karl Malone was on a radio show with Vic the Brick Jacobs out here in Los Angeles? And I think it might have been after he had his run.
Are you going to talk to me about the Kobe wife thing?
No. Well, we could leave that. Yeah. It was the most entertaining sports talk radio because Karl Malone never stopped referring to himself in the third person. Vic the Brick is a caricature of himself times 10. And it was, if anybody wants to look up some of the best tapes in radio history, it was when those two had their show.
There's somewhere out there, if anyone cared, and I don't think enough people do, honestly, there's a great Karl Malone book to be written. He's a ranching African-American arch conservative who impregnated a 13-year-old girl when he was 20. I mean, like, there's crazy stuff there. And, like, but also, like, an amazing clubhouse locker room leader, was, really felt paternal about Kobe, but then hit on Kobe's wife. Like, the whole thing was, like, the weirdest.
It's got a wild,
That year, real quick, you bring in Payton, who's the worst fit for the triangle ever.
Right.
And one of the worst superstar teammates who's ever existed in a lot of ways. Like, he was really kind of cancerous in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Malone is 40. Kobe is flying back and forth to Eagle, Colorado, and might be facing 20 years in prison.
Right.
Shaq wants his contract renegotiated, and during the preseason runs past Jerry Buss during a game going, pay me, pay me.
Yeah.
Phil Jackson doesn't know if he's coming back or not, just has no idea. Doesn't want to coach Kobe anymore. Actually admits at one point during the season, I don't think we can win with this guy. They somehow survive this season, make the NBA Finals. Everyone thinks they should be heavily favored over Detroit. It's actually a miracle they've even made it this far. They lose in 5 to a far superior Detroit Pistons team, team-wise, not talent-wise. After the game, they have Game 5. They lose. They have a post-game not party, but event at a restaurant. Kobe walks in and walks up to Kareem Rush's backup guard, and Kareem Rush is new on the team and thinks this was a really good year. Like, I feel good about this year. We made the finals. Blah blah blah. And Kobe walks up to him and goes, "I ain't ever playing with that mother effer again." Kareem Rush is like, "Wait, what? Like, what? What?
Yeah, bitch mother effer."
Right, what? And then Jerry Buss walks in. Shaq is there with his wife, and Jerry Buss walks right past Shaq straight up to Kobe, and that's when Shaq knew he was done.
That's when he knew. And that's when he knew.
Yeah.
That was okay. Jeff, the time has come now. You got to face the real journalists on this show.
Bring it.
Okay. All right. She's people know her from our Wednesday show. We're bringing her into the spotlight because we got Jeff Pearlman here. We needed some heavy hitter. Let's go to Alexandria in Alexandria. Okay. Let's go back to Venice. Is she here?
She's coming in.
There it is. Wow. Hello, Alexandra.
Hello.
I love it that you're back. One, I want to clear the air. Are me and you still okay? We're friends that I haven't had you on the show for a while. Okay.
Maybe.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But this is a big one because he's a really good writer, right?
Yes, all the interviews I interview are great writers, but I think this is the best one.
Wait, Alexandria, how old are you?
I'm
No, how
great,
old are you?
Mr.
How old are you?
Oh, sorry.
I just want to
10
say,
years
and I
old.
hope this does not cross a professional boundary, you are adorable.
Yeah.
Adorable.
She's all right. She's okay.
Oh, my God. My heart's melting here.
You know, she and by the way, she will set you off a little bit by putting the apple up front, and it's like so. Just she's already got you. Okay, Alexandra, I'm gonna throw it to you. You take it from here.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Pearlman. My name is Alexandria, and I'm very excited to interview you today. It's such an honor. And now, if I recall reading your book, it is called 3 Ring Circus.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you some questions a lot of people don't ask you before. That people really want to know. I
All right,
want to
I'm
know,
here. I'm ready.
Leslie. Number 1. I did a little research and found out that you interviewed over 300 people for your book. You did not interview Kobe Bryant. What one question would you ask him if you got the chance?
That's a great question. And no one has asked me that before. That's a great question. If I had Kobe Bryant and I could talk to him, obviously before he died tragically, and I could talk to him and sit down, I think what I really want to know, like really understand, is how did he become so driven? Like, you know, we all have dreams in life, and I want to be a writer, and I'm sure you want to be whatever you want to be. What do you want to be in your life? Do you know?
I want to be a brain surgeon.
That's amazing. You want to be a brain surgeon. I wanted to be a writer. And we all have these dreams. But what was it in him that made him chase it so hard? Like, he wanted to be Michael Jordan. Like, his dream was to be the greatest basketball player ever. And then he became it. Like, everyone wants to be, so many kids want to be the best basketball player ever. Michael Jordan Kobe Bryant actually became the best. And I would love to understand what really, really, really put that in him and how he became so driven and so hungry. Because I definitely don't have that. But maybe you do.
That's a great question.
That was a great question.
Now, number 2. Per your book, Kobe and Shaq were constantly arguing who was the leader of the team. Now, this next question, probably not a lot of people asked you. But in your professional opinion, who was a better rapper, Kobe or
Great
Shaq?
question.
Before you answer, my favorite line is, creamy like cheese spread you on my bagel, boom shakalaka.
That's awesome. Wait, so who do you think was the better rapper?
why. Why don't you answer this first,
Okay,
and I'll give you your opinion. This is all about you.
These are tough questions, so I respect that. I will tell you, I think Shaq was the better rapper. If you go back and look, Shaq did a song with Foosh Snickens called "What's Up, Doc." It's a great song. And then later, he did a song. My son Emmett, who's 14, and we have a hip hop playlist that's about 6 hours. And one of the songs we have on there is a song that Shaq did with Phife Dawg from A Tribe Called Quest. It's one of the best songs on our playlist. So I will go Shaq. I do not think Kobe was a great rapper. He was a much better basketball player. What about you?
I personally like Shaq. And the little line I read, that was also from Shaq.
Awesome. Yeah, we're both Shaq fans then.
Now, number 3. A lot of your friends do not know that you are a food writer, which I was shocked when I knew because I love to go around the world and eat new foods. Which is your favorite Thomas Keller restaurant? French Laundry, per se, or ad hoc?
Wow. Okay. First of all, I was the worst food writer who's ever lived. I was completely unqualified, and I didn't know what I was doing. However, about 15 years ago, a friend of mine from college named Paul Dewar called my house and said, "Hey, do you and your wife want to come to Per Se?" And I didn't know what Per Se was. And I said to my wife, "Have you ever heard of a restaurant called Per Se?" And she goes, we're going, whatever it is, we're going. And we went to Per Se, and it was, I think, a 9 or 10 course meal. It was the most delicious food I've ever had. It was crazy expensive. So I have to go Per Se because I've been to Per Se. Have you been to any of those?
No, I've not. I have not been to any of them yet. But I'm hoping to go to the French Laundry.
I'll come with you.
Now, for the final question. Can I get a drum roll, please? Thank you. Would you rather have the Nets win the championship or have Delaware Blue Hen win the presidency?
Oh, that's not even. First of all, Joe Biden is a Delaware Blue Hen, as am I. And I would take Joe Biden to win the presidency right now over almost anything in the world. So I'm going to go with Joe Biden and the Delaware Blue Hen with the presidency. Great question.
Well, thank you for your time. All your answers were fantastic. And I think
Thank you, Alexandria. It was very nice meeting you.
Hey, nice work. I hope we're on good terms. You stay with the company, I hope.
You better take that girl. You better get that girl a meal at French Laundry. All right, she wants to be there. She's earned it.
I can do that. Thanks, Big A. You did well. You don't get that everywhere, right?
That was great.
Yeah, she does her research. She actually will read the whole book. She'll just knock it out. Yeah, she's the best.
Can we adopt her? Can my wife and I adopt her?
That's Carlos's daughter, so go right ahead. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. Hey, you're the best. I really appreciate you coming on. And I'd love to dive back in on some of your other books or have you come on at some other time. We try to have some fun, but also get some of your insight, and it would be the best.
As long as you're feeding us. As long as you're feeding us, man. I'm here.
You get the food. Food, you get it. Yeah, hey, man, I appreciate you.
Oh, it's been great.
All right, buddy. All right. Yeah, let's go.
Ciao.
Okay, let's tell them where they can buy the book. Everywhere, right? It's so easy. 3 Ring Circus. You search that wherever you buy your books. Amazon. Wherever you go. Wherever you search your books, do that. Look, you won't be disappointed. He gets into so many different. I read Showtime and this, and I feel like I know so much more about those eras, even though I lived through them, than I would. And so I'm going to start diving into his other books. Anyways, God, that was fun. Man, Alex is the best. She kills it every time. I don't know why I want to have her on every show. I got to talk about this at our next staff meeting. Okay. That didn't suck. That was fun.
We're 4 minutes late to the Laker game.
Okay, we're only 4 minutes late to the Laker game, so we got to get that done. So I would say maybe some box cobbler. We kick it out with the Buckster.
Hey guys, make sure you subscribe.
And please do subscribe. Yes, we could use that. Go visit me on Patreon, all that stuff. Okay, who did I sign on as? I forgot. I don't know.
No one.
Richard Kimball? No. Barnaby Jones?
You might as well go straight to Barnaby because that's all you've been watching.
I've been going strong on Barnaby Jones. Quinn Martin Productions. Watch them.
Cobra Kai has nothing on me. I watch sports stories with Denny Lennon. It motivates me to be perfect, kitty. Hoya! Oh! Ki! Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. Don't be kung fu-y.
Thanks for watching and listening. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is produced by me, Marley Rice, and Christine Jinbo, and edited by bad boy Bobby McCall. Original music courtesy of Lennon Music Production, and original images courtesy of Sienna Lennon Photography. A big thank you to all of our contributors of the show. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is a production of Sports Stories Inc. and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever you watch and listen. Make sure you press that subscribe button, give us a review, leave a comment. It will really help us grow the show. And you know what else will help us grow the show? Head on over to patreon.com/Denny Lennon to get some never-before-seen videos, pictures, interviews, and so much more. We are all over social media and constantly sending out clips on Facebook, conducting fun polls on Twitter, going live on Instagram, and more. To find all of our social media links, head on over to sportsstoriespodcast.com. SSDL proudly supports the My Stuff Bags Foundation and the Heroes Movement. Links to how you can support and help these foundations can be found on our website. We also want to give a big thank you to all of our partners of the show. So, as Coach Lennon would say, any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me, Marley, at info@sportsstoriespodcast.com. We want to thank all of our followers and listeners, and we will see you next time.
Check it out, book!